9 summers ago, I went for a visit to see if the moon was green cheese. When we arrived, people on Earth asked, "Is it?" We answered, "No cheese, no bees, no trees."
The Interplanetary Podcast. The exploration of space for the benefit of all mankind. Your hosts here in London, Matthew Russell and Jamie Franklin.
Do. Oh yeah, baby, Armstrong.
Oh, I think we were in sync for the first time ever.
Yeah, I liked it.
Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong wrote a little children's poem
Oh, yeah.
called My Vacation, and that was the first verse.
That is beautiful.
Do you want to hear the second verse?
Yes, please.
There were rocks and hills and a remarkable view of the beautiful Earth that you know. It's a nice place to visit, and I'm certain that you will enjoy it when you get to go.
It's lovely. I think he was better at walking on the moon, but that's very nice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was giving Wordsworth a run for his money.
But he doesn't need to, because surely he's the biggest legend ever.
Ever. That's it.
You know? Job done.
You do realise that, Jamie, that this week, between now and the next podcast, we're going to see the 50th anniversary of the launch of Apollo 11.
All hail.
July the 16th, 1969. But we'll do a proper rundown on that next week.
We absolutely
of course, it
will.
Be the moon landing week.
It's got to be done. So what about on this day?
I've got an interesting one, Jamie. Interesting one. So on this day is a chap called Jean Picard. You're thinking, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it does.
Instead of Jean-Luc Picard, his name is Jean-Félix Picard.
Ah, oui.
Yeah, oui. And he is a French astronomer and a priest, actually. A very unassuming man. But he's the first person to accurately measure the circumference of the Earth in 1670.
My God, that's a long time ago.
It is a long time ago. So this guy was obsessed with being really meticulous and doing very accurate measurements. And that's what kind of got him this gig. 25 times more accurate than his peer, Tycho Brahe.
It's just
the great Tycho Brahe.
Oh, legend. Was it Tycho or his cousin that had the nose chopped off?
No, Tycho. Yeah, had his nose chopped off. Yeah.
Poor old chap. Oh, that's amazing.
Had a metal nose. Yeah, so he wrote a book called Mesure de la Terre, which, as you'll know, is Measurement of the Earth.
Of course.
Published in 1671. So, yeah, just so you know how he did it, it's all about precision. So he was the first to attach a telescope that had crosshairs on it. So, when you look through things that got crosshairs, he was the first one to have that. And he attached it to a 38-inch quadrant, which is like like a protractor.
Yes.
Where you've got a telescope attached to it. And so you can measure the angle of what, that you're actually looking at.
Uh-huh.
And measure between two different points. And he also had a sextant, which is very similar, except you've got two reflective points, so you can measure the angle between those 2 points.
That's right.
And that's 6 feet. But he had little micrometer screw adjustments on there. So he was able to get really super, super, super in on measuring the degree of latitude from the Paris meridian. And he used this kind of triangulation technique using 13 triangles that stretch from Paris to the clock tower of the Sourdon.
Sweet relief.
Yeah. So, yes, 110.46 kilometres for 1 degree of latitude is what his measurement came out with. And that gives you a terrestrial radius of 6,328.9 kilometres, which at the time was so unbelievably accurate that it was 24 times more accurate than the living legend of the day, Tycho Brahe. So
he was a smart cookie, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So he was, exchanging letters with Tycho Brahe, Isaac Newton, Huygens, and even his rival Cassini. And Cassini, I think, was a little bit jealous of this guy, but certainly, he's not very famous, is he, Jean Picard?
Well, he bloody should be.
Well, he should be, yeah, because then you listen to this. So Newton used Picard's value of the Earth radius for his theory of gravitation. That's pretty important. Newton used Picard's work on this thing called mercurial phosphorescence that he'd kind of sort of discovered. And that led on to Newton's study of light spectrums, which is pretty important.
Oh, that really is, yeah.
Yeah. And then Picard used Huygens' pendulum clock to develop the standard method, of which we still use today, to measure right ascension of stars, and other objects. He observed the Jovian moons with Ole Rømer, whose work went on to calculate the speed of light.
These are some heavy hitters, Matt.
Yeah, so it's pretty amazing, isn't it? And not only while he was doing that, he's a bit like last week's on this day he was involved in hydraulics. He's a bit of a polymath, and he helped solve the problem of flowing water from ponds and fountains at Versailles.
What?
So I'll have a go at that.
Yeah, just have a stab at that. And
really weirdly, while observing Polaris, he noticed that it actually moved around, and that actually is what's known as aberration, which we should probably go into on another podcast. It's pretty complicated.
Mamma mia.
At the time, that was mistaken as parallax, which is a kind of similar phenomena, but the significance was only understood a century later, and essentially it kind of proves that the sun is at the center of the solar system, that we're all revolving around the sun. So he's very close to sort of being like even more ridiculously of just something incredible.
Isn't parallax a wrestling move?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
Oh no, that parallax sounds like it's what happens to you after a very rough wrestling move.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've broken my parallax. So what about his crater, Matt?
Well, do you know what I've noticed? Every time we have one of these on this day super famous astronomers or space person, they always have a crater named after them on the moon. And do you know what? Picard is no exception here. There is a Picard crater. There is a Picard crater on the moon.
Well, I can tell you, Matt, that there's a very magnificent Franklin crater, but there is a disappointing Russell crater. I don't know if you've noticed.
No. I think you'll find it's the Franklin crater is a little bit kind of low end, whereas the Russell crater is beautiful kind of figure of eight affair. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Plus, of course, there isn't a Franklin crater on Mars, whereas there is a Russell crater on Mars as well. Just so you know.
Yeah, they just haven't found it yet.
They haven't found Franklin crater. No. That's good. I like it.
Yeah.
Maybe when the Rosalind Franklin lands, they will.
Well, of course. Standard. Well, I think that Picard is incredible, and I'd like to tip my cap.
I'm going to definitely tip my cap to him.
Yeah.
Do you know that Kinness named their satellite after Picard?
Sweet. Good work, Kinness.
And that was studying the sun, the shape of the sun, and how it kind of affects its irradiance and stuff like that. That sounds like an interesting mission.
Really is.
Earlier. But here's a really interesting one. Obviously, Jean-Felix Picard sounds like he was an inspiration for Gene Roddenberry and his character Jean-Luc Picard, right? But get this, a lot of people, there's some suggestion that he named it after twin brothers Auguste Picard and Jean-Felix Picard, completely two separate people to Jean-Felix Picard that we're talking about, because they're both Swiss scientists from the 20th century.
No way.
But this Jean-Felix Picard actually has the right spelling, ICARD. So I don't know why people think it is those two, when clearly it would seem that Jean-Felix Picard is a much more suitable fit.
I'm going with that one. Definitely it fits better.
Yeah. And he was clearly an absolute... He knew people like Tycho Brahe, Isaac Newton, Cassini and Huygens. I mean, what the hell?
What a legendary priest.
Yeah.
Unhand
Bang
me,
out.
priest.
Yes. Just passionate about precision. Good guy. Good dude,
Incredible
man.
Stuff.
Jamie, did you read the Ars Technica article by the great Eric Berger.
I haven't caught it yet.
It's very good. It's a long conversation that Eric's obviously been having with Buzz Lightyear. Buzz Aldrin.
Well,
apparently,
promo for the film.
Was it on the podcast that I learned this, that Buzz was going to change his name to Buzz Lightyear by default?
What?
Yeah.
Serious?
So. Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that.
No, he was actually going to have, by default, add in Lightyear into his name.
Wow. Okay. I mean, do what you want, Buzz. You're a legend.
So Buzz thinks he's found a new and better way to get to the moon.
Okay. Hit me with it.
Yeah. So I like the way actually that Eric Berger starts off this particular article, because he actually puts the credit to Trump, and I think we were talking about this when credit where credit's due, even if whoever you're giving credit to is an absolute lunatic. But yes, it says, to its credit, the Trump administration has injected NASA with a sense of urgency by setting the 2024 landing goal. True story.
True.
Whether it's achievable or not, at least there is something good about it. But Buzz isn't worried about the timeline. It doesn't seem to be the timeline that's annoying Buzz. It's the technically disappointing performance of the system.
Okay.
So he's moaning about that the Orion capsule's massive, the SLS is wasteful, the European service module is really underpowered. And basically all that means is that you're not able to get to the moon and back like the Saturn V could, which is pretty disappointing 50 years later. And
That's right.
Technically can't really do what you could do 50 years ago.
Nah.
So obviously NASA have plugged the gap there by using the Lunar Gateway. And the Lunar Gateway, obviously, as we know, is this 7-day orbiting platform, essentially another space station,
yes,
that in its 7-day orbit comes within 1,000 kilometers of the moon.
Yes.
Right. But it really is irking Buzz, because Buzz realizes that really what you should do is have that particular space station near Earth, right? And one of the reasons is, most of the energy you're doing is just to get into Earth orbit before you do anything else.
Yes.
So use that because there's plenty of vehicles at the moment that can get into low Earth orbit. You don't need the SLS to do that, right?
Right.
So it's basically saying, why don't you have this platform in Earth orbit and then have a space tug that does the Transway Orbit Rendezvous? Now,
Ooh.
according to Buzz, I was just about to say Buzz Lightyear again. According to Buzz, he's saying, this tour plan may be the most important thing I've ever done in my life. Bear in mind what he's done in his life.
Yes,
he's got.
That's a bold one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bold.
But I love that he's fighting for the next gen.
Yeah, and actually, it what seems like a complete volte-face, or like you saying, we'll just have to rip up everything. Actually, it doesn't change everything, because you can still use the same propulsion system that Maxar are building. You can still use all the habitat modules. And you might be able to do things like add extra modules to have like a sort of commercial hotel for space travel. You can add an extra module for a sort of cheaper version of the ISS that commercial companies can use, and all those kind of things as part of the deal. But this space tug, which I can't work out whether this space tug is initially going to be the Orion spacecraft. That's the only bit that I couldn't kind of get. But eventually, you'd have this enormous vehicle that can do these, that can keep making this rendezvous orbit between Earth and the moon, picking up people from the various places and dropping them off in the various places to do that little journey, so that you're not wasting fuel, and you've got these much better commercial rockets that are reusable and are already available. So there's the ULA part of that would be something like the United Launch Alliance. ACES, they are putting ACE back into space too. And that's
copycats.
But the problem is, that kind of using like cryogenic fuels in space and sort of refueling everything is really, really difficult. But there's been some studies that say that if you had $250 million, you could get that capability in less than 5 years.
Oof.
Yeah, and actually, the whole thing isn't really that new a concept. This was designed, very similar kind of concept to this was designed by United Launch Alliance, called the CIS 1000 program,
Ooh,
which
that
was
sounds
kind of
good,
taken.
doesn't it?
Yeah, which is worth looking at. It's some great videos on there if you want to kind of understand the system more. But that was being taken very, very seriously until the Constellation program came along, and you got the great big SLS style rocket, etc. Basically, I think it was called at the time Apollo on steroids.
I like it.
But the thing about that is now it's Apollo on steroids that reduce your performance. Not very good, is it?
No one wants their performance reduced, Matt.
No. Well, ultimately, a steroid will do that to you, Jamie.
Yeah.
So you should stop with your, I know you go out to the gym and all the time and you're pumping yourself full of this stuff, but in the long term, Jamie, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, but I'm here to leave a good looking corpse, die young,
So Aldrin's out promoting this totally reusable architecture.
Well, fair play,
nodes
Buzz.
in low Earth orbit. Yeah. So I think it looks really, really good, and he's obviously passionate about it. Is it feasible though that we can change course, that we can tack to this new course right now?
Well, I guess it depends, doesn't it, on whether NASA are going to really listen to this.
But it's Buzz Aldrin.
Oh, exactly.
What I mean? So
got to listen.
Yeah, he's got to be the most famous space person alive, hasn't he? So yeah,
you would have thought so. Someone else who's pretty famous, Matt, is Neil Armstrong, and you went to see the new Armstrong film.
I did. Annoyingly, I had a ticket for you, but you couldn't come, could you?
I was flying to the Netherlands, unfortunately. But Matt, I'm very excited to know, how was it?
It was excellent. I went with Colin.
Yes.
The vice president of the British Diplomatic Society, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. The bizarrest thing was Maggie Aldrin Pocock was sat next to me, even though because she was part of the Q&A at the end of the film as well. That was filmed 6 days previous. So obviously she decided to come to the Guildford Cinema and watch it. So she was sat next to me, and weirdly, my mate Jay's been working with her and said, "You've got to get her on the show. We got on so well, and she'll get on really well with you." So if you're listening, Maggie, please get in contact. We need to get you on the show.
Please, Maggie.
Yeah, it'd be great.
You gotta do it.
You gotta do it. I found the Armstrong film very, very inspiring. I had a terrible day, Jamie. I had an awful day, and I thought there was something really, really magical about Neil Armstrong, something very sort of calming, and obviously had some demons, but yeah, it was really good. Buzz didn't come off very well in it, and it's bizarre. It's like he's not. It's not that he's not liked; he's just not loved. Do you know what I mean? He's obviously a bit of a wind-up merchant or something, but. Do you know what? Buzz is just like the rest of us. We're all humans, aren't we? Just trying to make our way through life, aren't we?
We're all just trying to make our way through this little ball of dust. That's it.
And and Buzz has done some incredible things with his life and navigated some very extremely difficult things in his life as well.
Exactly. They didn't set out to be perfect.
No. No. Not like you, Jamie.
Well,
I know
who can be?
So, yeah. Jamie, so many things have happened in the last couple of hours. It's ridiculous.
Well, where do we start?
We've been adding notes in just literally to the last second.
Couple of beavers.
Yeah, I mean, the one that just happened was Hayabusa 2 has landed on Ryugu, the actual satellite itself. Touchdown. So it's going to grab some more rocks, which it did back in February, but this time the rocks that it's going down to grab, remember it fired like a massive bullet into the asteroid itself.
Yeah.
So it fired this huge bullet in, and that's basically got loads of rubble from the center of not from the center, but inside the asteroid. And now it's landing down to sort of scoop up some of that stuff. And what's exciting about that, of course, that's a glimpse into material.
Yeah.
Glimpse into material that's essentially untouched by space or geology for 4.5 billion years and could tell us some amazing things
God, that's just
about the early solar system. Mm-hmm.
Just off the back of asteroids, did you see that they saw astronomers have logged about a kilometre long asteroid that has the record for its quickness around the sun?
Oh, no.
Yeah, shortest year of any asteroid.
Oh, I'll look out for that.
Yeah, check it out.
What's it called?
Oh, I don't know. I'll get you the deets.
You get the deets for next week.
BT.
Bit of a shocker, this one. This one came up in my feed as well just a few hours ago.
Oh, you're going to mention Vega, aren't you?
Yes.
I knew that you were going to say that because of the tone of your voice went down.
Yeah. The 15th Vega launch, every single one has been successful so far. But 2 minutes in to the 15th Vega launch, unfortunately, the second stage seems to have gone awry.
Ooh.
And that's it. It's game over for the whole thing. And yeah, that means that United Arab Emirates have lost their Falcon I-1, which was a sun-synchronous 1.2 ton satellite built by Airbus, a military kind of Earth observation satellite. So that's gone. So yeah, that's a bit of a shocker because it's been so reliable up until then, 100% reliable, in fact. So
what a shame.
Yeah, that's a bummer, isn't it, for the Europeans there? I hope they get that all back on track, and it was a simple problem because obviously that could have some run on effects for the new Vega, and then run on effects for the Ariane 6.
I know.
As a result, so let's keep fingers crossed that it doesn't have too much of an impact on that. But even more amazing is that Gerstenmaier and Bill Hill have both been demoted at NASA.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, you cannot see it in any other way than that they've been demoted by Bridenstine.
He sent them packing.
Yeah, he said, in an effort to meet the challenge. In other words, it's like, you two guys, you're just not the right people for this job.
Yeah, effort to meet the challenge is very diplomatic, isn't it?
Yeah, so, do you know who takes over?
Oh, I don't know.
This guy's got a great name. Kenneth Dwayne Socks Bowersocks. So
I was about to ask you why he's called Socks, and then you told me his surname.
Yeah. So Socks is taking over.
Kenneth Dwayne Bowersocks.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good name.
I like
it's a
him
strong
already.
Name. Yeah, not only that, he's been to space 5 times. Launched on STS-73 at the age of 38, making him the youngest person to command a space shuttle. And he flew on STS-50, 61, both as pilots, on STS-82 on the Hubble repair mission. And he went up on a space shuttle, STS-113, and came back down on a Soyuz for his last mission. So he's been there and done it.
He's got some damn experience.
Well, for space. And then he went to SpaceX and worked as the Vice President of Astronaut Safety and Mission Assurance until 2011. But I don't really know what he's been doing since. So.
Well, it sounds like we should interview KDB as soon as possible.
KDB, I think he's going to be quite busy now. He's the
no way.
He's the head of
no way near
human
busy
spaceflight.
Enough to reject our interview, Matt. Surely. Does he know that we're one of the top 15 star companies in the UK space sector?
I wonder if he is aware of that.
He'd better check the news because it's out there.
He's probably more concerned with other things right now, Jamie. Don't get cross with him.
Okay. All right.
So tell me about SpaceX. What have they been up to?
Well, it's all about the Starhopper, Matt. As you said last week when I was in Amsterdam, that I could have done with a Starhopper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I'm a bit of a jet setter, Matt, as you know.
Big time.
They're about to, next week, according to Elon, have their first untethered hop because they fixed their the situation with their dodgy Raptor engine, the very powerful Raptor engine, and the issues have been sorted. And
it was some kind of vibration problem, wasn't it? They should have got an acoustician like me in. That's the sort of thing I think
they still
I could have done that. I could have been Elon Musk's rocket engineer if I'd have just stuck to acoustics.
So he said this, Matt. He said, exciting progress in Boca. Hopper almost ready to hover. Based on tonight's test, looks like 600 Hertz Raptor vibration problem is fixed.
Do you want to hear my impression?
Oh, go on then. Yeah, because he did another tweet, didn't he?
Yeah, he goes, we'll do Starship presentation a few weeks after Hopper hovers, so probably late July. If that timing works, free LG chips for all present. That's really good, right?
Okay. What is an LG chip, Matt?
No, that's what I was trying to find out because you
or an
bunged
LJ
this in
chip, rather. Sorry,
an LJ chip. What is an LJ chip? I've been trying to work that out. It's bound to be
is
something
it
really
a snack,
obvious, and everyone's going to be
or is it
groaning
like
going,
something electrical?
I don't know. LJ chips.
I like to
All
think
present.
it's just really good crisps.
Yeah, maybe that's
We
it.
call
Maybe
them crisps, don't we? Here.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it's just a brand of crisps. Maybe it's saying Free Walker's chips, Free Walker's crisps for everyone present. I just don't know.
Well, it's very exciting. I'll tell you what else is exciting, Matt. Virgin Orbit carried out a successful Launcher 1 drop test.
Get in.
So they flew up in their big old 747, and
Cosmic
they said
Girl.
that the test was a success. The whole flight went incredibly well. The release was extremely smooth, and the rocket fell away nicely. Kelly Latimer there, Virgin Orbit's chief test pilot, said in a statement after the flight. What do you think about that, Matt?
I think that's really exciting because, of course, it's one step closer to a Cornish launch.
This is very
just down
exciting.
the road from my
just
house.
Down the road.
Yeah. But sticking with Virgin as well, actually, Virgin Galactic look like they're going to be the first publicly traded space tourism company.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Some massive...
Should we buy some shares?
Yeah, we should do. I think it's coming like Social Capital Hedo Sophia Holdings Corp.
Right.
Are going to invest $800 million to acquire 49% of Virgin Galactic, which should fund the whole endeavour until it starts to break even and make a profit.
Beautiful. That's good work of them.
Anyway, I've got two little things that I wanted to just quickly bring to your attention.
Go on.
Little couple of Apollo gems. Obviously, we can't not talk about Apollo, but
no,
there's a couple of things that I've learnt about one from Spaceflight magazine and one from the good old Discord channel.
Go on then.
But yes, a couple of Apollo gems. In 1966, there was a 27 British scientists went to KSC to work on the ALSEP, the Apollo Lunar Surface Experiment Package. Ooh. But that became just for the Apollo 11. It came the ESEP, the early Apollo Surface Experiment Package. It was kind of simplified version. But one of the scientists was able, Keith Wright, who's a fellow of the BIS. He was able to sort of say, can 7 of the team sign something before he goes up? So they were able to sign one of the brackets on the back of this experiment that went up with Apollo 11.
Right.
And so they signed it. Then the ink was removed because, of course, that's contamination and, a bit of isopropyl alcohol, and cleaned it off. But the scratches remain. And this guy, Keith, managed to draw his name, put UK, and draw a tiny Union flag as well. So on the moon, in Tranquility Base, there's a tiny little drawing of a UK flag. How cool is that?
I love that.
Yep, that is pretty awesome. But
incredible stuff.
Where people were sneaking lots of these sort of things on, and the one that came via the Discord channel was one called Moon Museum. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, I have. That's incredible.
It's so funny. So yeah, it's a little tiny wafer of a ceramic wafer that this artist, Forrest Frosty Myers, managed to get his friend to sneak onto Apollo 12. And yes, it's got lots of different artists, 6 different artists drawing some stuff on, one of them being Andy Warhol. And Andy Warhol, his little thing is his initials that, if you look at it in certain ways, looks like a rocket ship. But I should imagine someone like you, Jamie, very childish, will probably see it as a penis.
Why would I do that, Matt? I
don't know.
I'm probably the most mature friend you have.
Actually, that's probably true.
Which is probably true, which says something about your other friends.
Yeah, that is true. Jamie, as you were away in Amsterdam,
Yeah.
I interviewed a very lovely chap called Jonathan Fetter-Vorm.
I know you did, and I was very jealous, namely because I got a lovely copy of his incredible book, Moonbound, Apollo 11 and the Dream of Spaceflight, and I didn't realise that it was kind of like a graphic novel version, and it is one of the best things I've ever seen.
Out of all the books we've been looking at, and I think it's definitely the most original, isn't it? There's something really cool about it.
It's absolutely, I mean, I know that we say this a lot, but it is mind-blowingly good. Please go out and check it out. But I'd love for you to listen on, because Jonathan's a bit of a legend, isn't he?
What more do you need? Michael Collins, who I really want to make Astronaut of the Week next week, Jamie. So we'll do a deep dive on Michael Collins.
Sure.
Not to be confused with Phil Collins or Michael Collins, the Irish guy.
Correct.
He said, I know of no other book about Apollo 11 that is more enjoyable.
That's a hell of a statement, isn't it? Well, that's all you need to know.
There's a bit in this chat which he sent me later in an email. He said, did you hear the bit where his cat starts scratching at some of his artwork? And so he had to lunge to get her, sending his laptop sailing across the room. But he carried on like a pro. Like the whole thing, he doesn't tell me what's happening, but you can hear. You should be able to hear it. And then he sent through his space songs. So do you want to hear? Do you want to know what his space songs are?
I totally want to know.
His space songs are Lemon Jelly Spacewalk.
Nice.
I do love that song, but I have to say Lemon Jelly at the Forum was the most boring gig I've ever been to.
Okay.
But that album's really good. Nico Case, do you know this one? I Wish I Was the Moon.
I don't know.
No, that's a good one. It's a
Add
good one.
that.
I do know Joanna Newsom's Waltz
Yes.
of the 101st Lightborn.
Oh, she's brilliant. Yes.
Absolutely amazing. So that's 3 good tracks, isn't it, to add to the playlist?
Well, shall we have a listen?
Shall we have a listen? Écoutez.
The Interplanetary Podcast, putting the ace back into space.
We've received a copy of the book, and it's such a fantastic looking book. And it's very different to some of the other books that we've been looking at over the last few weeks. Can you tell us a little bit about it and what makes it so different?
Well, I think the most salient feature is the fact that it's a comic book. I've been working on it for a few years now in anticipation of this big anniversary coming up for the Apollo 11 landing. As part of my research, I read a bunch of background material, and one of the things that kept jumping out at me was the plethora of visual resources that NASA had preserved. There's just so much photo documentation from the stuff the astronauts took to the stuff, behind the scenes when they're assembling the spacecraft. So it's kind of a goldmine for someone who does comics. Almost every angle of this story has some sort of visual reference for me to go from. So yeah, I've basically told the story of Apollo 11, the landing, and the return. But most of the book is about the long, I'd say, deep history of the dream of going to the moon. And so it's a lot of historical background, and we cover a very wide swath.
How on earth do you start a graphic novel? Because I've never really spoke to a graphic novelist before. I mean, you do all the drawings and all the text and everything else.
Do everything. For this book, so I think in terms of graphic storytelling. So that's sort of just where my mind goes to about how to figure out how to tell a story using images and words. And for me, the real germ of this book happened when I was reading the Apollo 11 transcripts. Shortly after Neil and Buzz landed on the moon, and NASA has scheduled them to take a nap, recovery period before they start preparing for their EVA. And I love that scene when the astronauts deviate from the schedule and they, ping Houston on the radio and tell them that they're going to start preparing. They don't want to take the nap. They're going to start preparing now. But when I first read that, I was struck by how utterly human that moment was. That of course, these two men who have gone the farthest of any men before don't want to take a nap. They want to go see this new world. And in my head, I just had this image of these two guys sitting in the stark lunar light inside their lunar module, arguing with the mission control about when nap time should be, and that kind of crystallized the larger challenge, the conflict between the human impulse to explore and the bureaucratic engineering-based mindset that enabled that exploration. The two were working in tandem to produce what happened on Apollo 11.
What would you say were the strengths of the kind of graphic novel format, particularly for telling the story of history? Because I noticed your previous books have a historical bent as well, even though they're not space related.
For sure, yeah. My first book was about the invention of the atomic bomb, Trinity, and my second, Battle Lines, was about the American Civil War. History has become sort of my MO for graphic storytelling. And I think one of the real strengths of this medium is the ability to make pretty ambitious leaps of the imagination or leaps of storytelling. Because you think about how the comic book page is set up, each panel usually separated by a gutter of white space. And when you're reading a comic book, your mind is already sort of in the mode where you are making leaps of the imagination from one frame to another. And I found that that's a particularly useful thing to transpose over into the world of history, to be able to make big associative leaps and have the reader stick along and not feel overwhelmed. And the other thing I think that the comics do really well is I sort of treat it like collage. Like the page is a chance to assemble a lot of sources or a lot of visual reference, whether that's photographs or documents, portraits, and I can arrange them in such a way that these disparate pieces of information can kind of flow together. You can create your own sort of argument by putting images next to each other, which is a thing that's a lot harder to pull off in a prose book.
The drawing aspect of it I find really fascinating, because presumably it's exceedingly time consuming. Do you sketch the idea? Do you sketch out the storyboard first, or do you just go for it?
Well, my process is pretty plodding. I think if you talk to a lot of graphic novelists, and they really are honest with you about how much work and rework goes into it, it's a very meticulous process. There's a lot of going over the same material. I actually start with the words. Because I'm doing nonfiction, I want to make sure that the book is as accurate as possible and the argument flows. And so I sort of write a movie script, as it were, where each panel is, I describe what's going to be in each panel. And then I go back and, once all the writing's done, start with very loose sketches, thumbnail sketches that are, literally the size of my thumb. So I can just get quickly and dirty impressions of what I'm going to do. And then from there, I do pencil sketches, and then I ink those pencil sketches, and then I put the word balloons in, and the lettering, and the coloring. And it just becomes, it's kind of iterative. You just keep going over the material, constantly honing it, and then finally it all sort of comes together at the end.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like a real labor of love. For the astronauts themselves, do you sort of set aside time to sort of capture the essence of each of their characters as a sort of piece, or is that just as you're going through the novel itself, or do you actually sort of say, this is how I'm going to draw Neil Armstrong, and this is how I'm going to represent Buzz Aldrin, for example?
Yeah. So it's this kind of tension between caricature and likeness. You want to try to, when I was drawing these figures, because they're sort of the main characters, it's a matter of trying to pare down, Buzz Aldrin's face to a combination of hairline, cheekbones, chin, nose, and eyebrows. Like, just get the details that from a distance you can say, oh, that is Buzz. I actually found, and Collins was similarly, he's got very specific features in his nose and the way his eyes are shaped and spaced. And those two people were actually I thought they were a lot easier to draw. Armstrong is somewhat like his personality, is something of a cipher. I found him very difficult to capture a likeness of. And so I ended up, I think, just sort of like, doing my best. And then in the world of the comic book, once you sort of establish that this is what Neil Armstrong looks like, then as long as you're not like holding it up to a photo reference, I think people will kind of get the point. But to get to your other point, I was sort of reticent to go into the psychological aspects of these men. I know a lot of books do that. A lot of stories do that. The First Man did that. I think there's definitely a curiosity about it from lay people about, what did it take for these men to be able to do what they did? But the more that I read about it, the more the Apollo 11 program mission and the program writ large read to me a lot like very talented people doing a difficult job very well. And there was an element of professionalism that I thought was kind of undercut by the attempt to psychologize everything. Like, I think that there is a kind of separation between what these men were doing at work and what their lives at home were like. That separation breaks down once the mission is over and you have the long afterlife of what it's like to live as a person who's gone to the moon and then try to come back to Earth. So I had to do some some profile, some like quick capsule description of these characters, but I was really interested in, saying these are their names, these are their roles. Now let's get to the story. Cause I think that there are better opportunities to read about the psychological backgrounds of these guys. And that wasn't really what I was interested in.
Right. But do you think that in telling a story like that, where you have characters that are obviously interacting in certain ways and doing certain things, that aspect of it is almost unavoidable, that they keep telling their own story? And I think it's really obvious actually that Neil Armstrong would be a hard character to sort of capture via drawing, because he is kind of enigmatic. I'm almost, to be honest, I'm always quite surprised by photos of Neil Armstrong. I can never quite get what he looks like. Yeah. I know it sounds silly, but it's like so. But in telling the story, presumably the characters, you can't help but let some of that character come through. Totally. Did you find that? Yeah,
and that's one of the great assets of having all the mission transcripts available, that you can, through their words and through their goofs, their jokes to each other. That was a good way to characterize them. Just the banter of what they were doing on the mission helped a lot. And then, of course, I drew from all of their memoirs, which were more composed and more revealing than necessarily like the material that was coming out as publicity for Apollo 11. So, Michael Collins' memoirs, it's one of my favorite books about space.
Oh yeah. Well, I was about to say, Michael Collins. Yeah, is it Catching the Fire?
Yeah.
Or carrying the fire. So yeah, that book is often considered by many as actually the greatest of all the sort of astronaut books. So was it? Did you meet Michael Collins when he did your foreword for the book and get involved?
I didn't. I kept hoping that it would work out, but one of the downsides of doing a book that comes out during the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11 is that your main characters are unavailable.
Big time, yeah.
But yeah, it was funny because I started this, full confession. I started this not knowing very much about space, and not knowing anything more about the Apollo 11 mission than the kind of basic thing I was taught in school. I didn't even know who Michael Collins was when I set out on this, and I used that sense of, I don't know, let's call it ignorance, as a motivating factor for how I could tell this story in a way that was both, expressed my own curiosity and my own sense of discovery, and worked as a way to try to introduce new audiences to parts of the story that might not have heard about. And Mike Collins started out as kind of an unknown to me, and then became my favorite astronaut that has ever lived. He's sort of a personal hero of mine now. So that was one of the great benefits of doing this book.
Are you a space fan now? Did it actually kind of ignite a passion for space?
I've always had an interest in space, but I would say it's been about. I've always had this attraction to the sublime aspects of space, the kind of vast, impossible to wrap your head around aspects of it. And I think that doing research on this book helped focus that larger fascination into a fascination with the people who have the audacity to confront that vastness and think, oh, we could go there, or we could send something there. That I'd never made that bridge before, that there is something sublime about the humans who also go to space. And that really came together when I was doing this book.
Did you have any kind of revelation moments and sort of sit back and go, oh my God, did that really happen? Did you have any of those moments?
I think I was most shocked by when I discovered the full extent to which the American space program relied on Nazi technology and Nazi talent. I knew that Wernher von Braun was an important figure in America, and I knew that he had a dark past, but I didn't realize how direct the line from the slave camps of Mittelwerk to White Sands test range. It's just a conveyor belt. So that was pretty shocking.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else? Is there anything more slightly more positive? Was there anything in terms of the actual mission itself that you? I mean, I love it. I mean, we talk about Wernher von Braun all the time and that connection, because it's quite unrealed. I think.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those things where people don't kind of like to talk about it too much.
Just rather not.
Yeah, my dad used to listen to the V2 bombs go over the top of his house, so it's quite funny.
Terrifying.
So, yeah, I mean, absolutely terrifying, I imagine. But so was there anything in the actual kind of mission itself?
That was surprising. I don't think I was prepared for the amount, the extent to which these guys had to work. I was, you think that astronauts are these, and you get the Tom Wolfe impression in your head that these are just kind of like fighter jocks who are swinging from the hip. But once I started getting into the, like the training logs for the simulation logs, in the months leading up to Apollo 11's launch, the kind of daily grind these guys had to go through, and the tension of work and family and the pressure of, are they going to be able to pull this off? That all that stuff was, it's invisible to someone who's just casually into this story, but it was pretty fascinating. It really humanized them as people who are just trying to do a job well, and I think that was kind of a helpful entry point into thinking about astronauts, because usually they're cast in such golden light as these kind of otherworldly figures, but it was fun to discover just how they're just people doing a job and doing it well.
Yeah. Do you cover that? I mean, talking about them just being people, do you cover the time where they have to kind of adjust to normal life after doing something?
Yeah. And then in an epilogue, there's a Armstrong quote about how he wishes that something to the effect that he wishes that the results of this had been more significant, and the kind of deflating feeling that followed Apollo 11 and actually the Apollo program in general, the rather brief or quick defunding of it. I treat with that in my epilogue, the kind of pathetic aftermath. There was I talk about a New York Times reporter who did a kind of ad hoc informal poll in 1971, and she called up a bunch of people all over America and polled them to say, do you remember the name of the first man to walk on the moon? And most of the people that she talked to just 2 years after the mission, couldn't remember Neil Armstrong's name. And that was sort of a shock to me, because, it's far enough in hindsight that I think during the 80s and 90s, and certainly now leading up to the anniversary, there's the mission and the Apollo program writ large has become something bigger than it was in its immediate aftermath. The distance of time and nostalgia, and a sense that this was kind of a high point in some narrative of 20th century history. It was interesting to see that didn't start building until the late 80s. Before then, the astronauts themselves, the program had sort of fallen into obscurity.
How do you think that plays out nowadays with things like this new Artemis mission? And do you think in 10 years' time or 15 years' time you might be doing a graphic novel based on Artemis?
Oh, that'd be cool. We need the fuel of the enthusiasm that came before, that enthusiasm that has become sort of inflected by nostalgia. I do think that helps us. I would much rather that be a motivating factor, the sense of like, what is the best that humans can do. I would rather that be a motivating factor for spurring spaceflight than Elon Musk's kind of cryptic sense of survivalism that like we need to. I mean, even if it's in the back of everyone's mind, I want the motivation for our future, our move to becoming a spacefaring species to be one of hope, not one of desperation.
Yeah, so sort of more like the Olympics and less like, I don't know, building a seed bank or something.
Yeah, sure. That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree with that.
Yeah, like the Olympics, but without the corruption.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No
The Olympics in the best sense of the word of the Olympics. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's everything gets sullied in the end.
Sure.
Yeah. What sort of project are you thinking of working on next? Is it going to be space related, or are you thinking of doing something completely different?
I think I'm going to take a break from space. I was really excited to draw it, and then once I started drawing it, I realized that it's very difficult to illustrate space. And maybe, if you were a better artist than I, but it's between the moon, which was harder to draw than Neil Armstrong's face, and the blackness of space, it presents some very particular challenges for composition. And I'm so used as an artist to relying on things like atmospheric perspective, things that you sort of take for granted when you draw a picture of something that happens on Earth.
Yeah,
it just doesn't happen in space. So I think for my own sanity, I need to take a break from drawing stars. But yeah, no, I haven't figured out what I'm going to do next. I sort of wait for the project to fall in my lap, or see if the spark hits me.
Did you go back to any of the kind of old space graphic kind of novels, the kind of Dan Dares and the Flash Gordons, to kind of draw any inspiration of how to draw space? I
did a little bit. I was keeping it, yeah, and I was constantly keeping in the back of my mind Jack Kirby. He did a lot of the Marvel illustrations that during the golden age that we've become enamored with, and he had a particular way of drawing space that was very hyperbolic and exciting, and again got a really good taste of that kind of pulpy sci-fi feel. And so some of my panels, there's this thing called Kirby Crackle, which is, I don't know how to describe it. So you sort of have to point it out, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. It was a way that he had of drawing space that it was just a bunch of dots, like black dots, and then white stars on top of it, and it creates the effect that it seems like the whole vista of the universe is kind of throbbing. So I definitely relied on that kind of stuff. But a lot of my pop cultural source materials precedes the rise of comic books. A lot of the things that I was looking back to were written sources like Jules Verne, or even before that, Cyrano de Bergerac, and people who were talking about going to space long before there was even an understanding of the novel. Like Johannes Kepler, he has a whole chapter devoted to his dream of flying on the back of a demon to land on the moon, and using that to postulate his vision of how the universe works.
Thank you very much for coming onto the podcast, and it really does look like an absolutely superb take on the Apollo mission. It's like I was thinking, how are people going to make this exciting? You know, every 10 years we have a sort of slew of books, but this one really is very, very different, and I can't wait to get stuck in.
Well, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for giving me the chance to talk about it.
Oh, actually, before you go,
Sure.
and I'm going to spring this one on you. We occasionally ask guests if they have a space. You sound like a cool guy, so they ask people if they have a particular space song that can go on our space song playlist that we keep. So a song that, the obvious ones like David Bowie's Space Odyssey. But is there one that you have that's kind of like pretty obscure and it's like one of your favorite bands that does a kind of space song?
Oh, that's a good question. Can I get back to you on that, or do you need an answer on the spot?
No. You can definitely email me
because
if you like.
I definitely spend a lot of my time, as I'm drawing, I'm just listening to music, and I spent a lot of time on this project coming up with playlists that would evoke the right mood for drawing space. So let me go through my list and see if there's something that would be fun to.
Oh wow, yeah, that'd be cool. Is what sort of names did you give your playlist?
Oh, really exciting names like Space Playlist.
Well, that's very similar to our title.
Really creative.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Again, thanks very much for joining us.
Okay, thanks a lot.
The Interplanetary Podcast is alive!
I really enjoyed that interview, Jamie.
Absolutely brilliant. And make sure you go out and get the book, Moonbound, out now.
Jamie, I was going to do Exoplanet of the Week. Well, I was going to talk about WASP 1b. I thought, because there's 4,000. Yeah, no, there's 4,000 exoplanets to get through. So I was going to start a whole new section, so that by the time we're dead, we'll have done every single exoplanet. But maybe we'll do it for another day.
Let's do it on another day.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful stuff. Well, I will speak to you soon, Matt. Have a good weekend, everybody. And be sure to check out our website.
Absolutely.
www.interplanetary.org.uk.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, particularly on iTunes, very helpful. And check out Patreon as well if you like the show. Jamie, it's a lovely day. Go get yourself some sun. And when the night comes, don't forget to look up at Jupiter and marvel in her beauty.
Oh, thanks, Matt. I'm absolutely going to do that. You look after yourself, okay?
Okie dokie.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Spodcats.
See you soon.
See you soon, bye.
Bye.